How do you take a classic starship from the 70s and translate it not only into a 3D model, but one that has to be detailed inside and out for 3D printing? The Beowulf has had many iterations over the last 45 years. It appeared in the very first edition of the Traveller role-playing game. Since then, there have been many new additions and interpretations of the design. Although we had deck plans to work from, we still needed to translate them into a 3D space. From our earlier work on the Type S, we learned that compromises need to be made in going from the page to the 3D printer. We had to change the forward landing gear, lengthen the ship slightly, and increase the height marginally to accommodate all the features the ship has to have. But with the interior planned out, the next question became, from what Beowulf design do we draw primary inspiration from? Ultimately, the Mega Traveller edition, envisaged by the likes of Rob Caswell, Brian Gibson and Tom Peters, spoke to our nostalgic aesthetic, particularly the designs from the Starship Operator's Manual Volume 1. The process of designing the 250 parts of the Free Trader Beowulf has been tedious and time-consuming. Working from the fore to the aft, we did the first concepts in March of 2021 and started full production in February of 2022. Each deck needs to be painstakingly designed with walls, furniture, and even some functional parts like the ramp and the turrets. You can assemble the ship whole and even light several parts of it, including its engines, cargo bay, bridge, and navigation lights. Or you can lift off the roof and each of its 3 decks can stack onto the table for easy play. With a brief hiatus, it has taken us over 7 months to get the Beowulf finished. Each part has been prototyped and iterated on so many times we could have had 3 ships by now. But finally, the design process is over and the Beowulf will shortly be released. The Beowulf is making its way to Kickstarter on October 24th of 2022. We will be making available both the new deck plans of our Beowulf iteration for those without 3D printers, and for those of you ambitious enough, the STL files to print your own Free Trader. Click the link in the description to save the Kickstarter page for when we go live. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Alrighty guys, hi, Ben here from Second Dynasty. We're going to look at the Beowulf again today. That whistle was from Albin. Liesl is also in the room for the time being. First of all, I want to say welcome to all of our new subscribers. We've had quite a few in the last couple of days. If you are watching this for the first time, we usually do a live stream on Friday afternoons as a sort of like 1 hour session to show off what we've been up to. Maybe do a little bit of work in Maya in preparation for the 3D printable starships that we usually make. Today I've already had an interview with On Tabletop. You guys can look out for that coming on October 24th, which also is the launch date for our upcoming Beowulf Kickstarter. This baby right here, only 3D printed, and it is massive. It's like 2'8" or 2'9", like about 83 centimeters or something like that, from tip to toes, I guess. I don't know. Nose to this thing at the back that looks kind of suspicious. You guys notice this kind of looks like a really happy one of those evil fish that live in the very deep ocean.
Oh, anglerfish.
Anglerfish, yeah. So what are we going to be doing today? We will talk about that shortly. I don't know if John is on today.
Apparently the Stinger diorama is going to be out tomorrow, according to Kathy.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing that, Kathy. That should be awesome. The Stinger, yeah, I think John got a bit carried away with some marketing with the Stinger, and he has made it a little bit suspicious on my manufacturer. We do actually have the Halloween sale at the moment, where we did do a new ghost ship variant of the Chimera called the Ataphoi, if I remember correctly. I'm still getting used to the Greek name. It means ghost from an unburied body, basically. So a restless ghost of sorts. So we did preview that last week. So if you guys can check out that live stream from last week if you want to see more about the Atafoy. It is a Chimera upgrade. John has had the wily idea that if you do own a Chimera, just message us on My Mini Factory and we'll send you a discount code if you just want an upgrade price instead. So you can get basically half off. There are a bunch of new parts in there as well. I think I've designed more than 45 new parts. Speaking of parts, the Beowulf has 250 pieces. And I was going to start this session by saying, okay, now we've actually got to get all these parts ready so that John can understand them to get them into 3DO, which is our proprietary software that John has developed for us, which basically allows you to sort of preview your prints and plan out your prints, because, 250 parts is quite a lot. And I was like, yeah, you guys are going to love this when I name all the parts so we can figure out which ones are the actual STL files. You can see here these ones have already been... Actually, my face is probably covering this section. In any case, up here, I think you can see this, is where we name the parts. It's a tedious, lengthy process. And I was like, I really don't have anything to show this week. And then I'm like, we haven't modeled any stretch goals yet. And I'm like, that's not good. So guess what, guys? Today we're going to talk about stretch goals and what we might get started on today. Now, the most logical early stretch goals that we're going to do is obviously upgrading the strength of the power plant drive and jump drive. Power plant, maneuver drive, and jump drive, sorry. So yeah, exciting stuff. Hopefully you guys saw the video at the top of the stream. This is on YouTube at the moment, and it's just sort of like a journey so far sort of thing that Hannes threw together for us. I shouldn't say threw together, he worked a couple of days on that, but we're trying to get our pre-Kickstarter marketing game on point. Meanwhile, there's a ton of graphics left to do and stuff to sort out, because of course things are running late. Mika is late on the painting. I've no doubt it's going to get done on time, but it's going to be another close one with our pitch videos. So I'm glad we've at least been able to do a couple of previews. Bus variant. I mean, the bus variant, basically this section, I think... Oh wait, is that an old part? No. We'll be able to put a part in here basically where we can extend this section by 2 or 4 inches at a time. This is the only part of the ship that actually is kind of extendable, because it's the only part where the bottom and the top are actually all flat, so there's no curvature of the ship, right? This was the whole issue with the bus version of Shuttle Alpha. 250 pieces of glory, oh yes. And the lore mistress says, g'day, back right at you. Although it must be really late or really early in Australia right now. Wait, is it 8 or 10 hours time difference between... It's 3 o'clock here. So let us know what time it is there, lore mistress. Anyway, so yeah. I think the logical things to do is to start with the earlier stretch goals, because we're going to want to preview some things. Again, our actual funding goal this time is 15,000 euros. That's considerably higher than what we normally set the starting goal at. But hey, we need to survive. So we're setting it quite high, and we'll have fewer stretch goals. But you never know. Maybe this will be a massive campaign this time around. I mean, I feel like this is definitely our most thorough design to date. And I don't know how you guys feel or how familiar you guys are with Traveller, but I feel like this is a loyal depiction of the Type A free trader from classic Traveller. Just as our video was sort of showing at the top of the stream, it really is something I'm proud of. I mean, we've put 7 full-time months into this, if not more. There's a lot of things that work really well. The ramp's articulated very nicely, so it actually stays up. There are a few compromises that had to be made there towards the end, where I would have liked to, example, have had a proper garage door in here, or sliding doors in the cargo bay. You can't make everything work, or you're just going to end up with a project that lasts for years and years, and quite frankly, we can't afford it. So this is the compromise, but I think it's a good compromise. So,
by the way,
yes.
12:06 a.m.
12:06 a.m.
Yes.
So just past midnight. All right, 9 hours difference. All right, yeah, because we're going off summertime this weekend, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, doesn't that mean we get to sleep in an extra hour?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, baby. That's... And are we ever going back on summertime? I hope not. Has the EU decision...
Winter forever!
Has the EU decision gone through? I mean,
I don't think so, but who knows?
it is a joke here in Sweden when in the summer it's like the sun, even down... We don't live that far up. We're like maybe in the bottom quarter of the country. At the top of the bottom quarter, but still. And in the summer, like what? The sun goes down at like 11 p.m. and comes up at like 2? I mean, do we need to save daylight? Not up in the north, no. So I'd be quite happy if we just had the same time all around. It seems a little antiquated. Anyway, that's enough of my rant on that for now. So let's start talking about what we're actually going to make. Far Trader for the next one, Richard Perk says, let's not get ahead of ourselves, guys. Let's see how well this does. I'm very much hoping, too, that the deck plans... I don't know if we've got... let's see, Beowulf deck plans. We've started like getting some images together that are going to be the basis for it, but these are very, very rough starting renders. They have some issues. Actually, Albin's sitting with that now in between painting the interior. Shout out to Albin and Lisa Lot for being such troopers, painting as much of the interior as they can. I just don't have time for it. So that makes me very, very happy. The checker pattern, as that blasted summer flange, as mentioning, was in some classic Traveller art. I think we actually made it technically work more like it's supposed to for the warped shape it is. This is just a smooth section, so this is really just for my Maya scenes to make it feel like, hey, this is, Traveller. And I think the checker was supposed to be black and white, but I like red and white more. Partially because it also is a pattern I've used on the starships I designed for the game that never was.
Oh. Well, we did get this instead.
We did get this instead. So, let's open the ship up. Of course, this is detailed inside and out. We've got Deck A here. We've got our party zone going on. We still need to print out the chairs and tables and a couple of doors and that. These are the sort of things that can be painted relatively quickly. Our goal is, I don't think we'll be able to show off all 3 decks because the exterior of the hull is being painted and we don't know when it will be done. By the end of the weekend, we're hoping. We'd like to film on, like, say, Monday. But the beauty of this is... what am I thinking? No, Deck A and Deck B is what we're trying to get fully painted. So that we can basically show off, if we take off the Deck A sides and the Deck A interior. So basically you will be able to lift off the very top deck, look down and see all of this nicely painted for the pitch video. So that would be lovely. And I just got done with a wonderful interview on Tabletop, like I mentioned at the top of the show. Shout out to Jerry. I kind of remembered halfway through that sentence that I already mentioned that. Sorry, guys. It's been one of those weeks, and I'm a little bit stressed stressed out. Sorry, there goes that cough again. as you would be before a campaign. So I'm very much looking forward to actually launching it. But you know, we've done quite well ahead of time. This is the largest campaign we've ever had. We have 699 people that are following the project already, which means that on day one we should be able to get a nice big launch buzz going, which is great. And we also discovered a new avenue that might help us with marketing during the campaign, which I'm very happy about so far. Perhaps one of you is actually one of the people that have seen our most recent video, joined the channel, and are now watching our live stream. So welcome. So yeah, all of these live streams are behind the scenes sort of stuff, by the way. So it takes a long time to get this ship printable. And by printable, I mean that each single part here, if I just move aside one of these pieces or isolate it. So this is a fully 3D printable part, right? We have the open lock clip holes. That's how the pieces join together gluelessly. There's absolutely zero glue involved in this ship, despite the fact that it's almost 3 feet long.
And like 4 kilos or something.
Yeah, I think it's probably about 4.5 kilos.
Oh, man.
The hull itself is 3.9 kilos, and that was without the interior.
It's true.
Yeah, and it actually feels a lot better than the other ships when you lift it. Like the other ships, when you lift them, it feels like they're about to fall apart if you don't hold them the right way. Wouldn't you agree, Albin?
Yeah, it feels awesome. It's really solid. It's like holding a baby.
So I'm just going to save the scene so that we're not upsetting anything here. And I might just, I don't know if I'll make a new version for this. Or if the stretch goal, I guess the stretch goals. So I'm not completely finished with the scene, so it's not a great idea to launch into a second one. But let's talk about what we actually need to do for stretch goals, because I think the first stretch goals logically is turning this into a jump to ship.
Makes sense.
And I don't know if we're going to do this in phases or not. So there's 4 things that a Beowulf needs to go from jump 1, power, and maneuver 1 to at least jump 2. And it makes sense to go power 2, maneuver 2, because to get to jump 2, you need to have power 2 anyway. So as far as the T5 rules are concerned, that means an extra 4 tons worth of drives. Now technically, all we need to do here is expand the machinery here by another 2 squares on either side. And that, wait, is that right? No, 4 squares on each side. Is that right? Wait, 2 squares is 1 ton, right? So yeah. So we would need to rearrange some of this. The drives themselves actually don't need a ton of room. Now I'm wondering if it's worth getting out the T5 rules, or if it's going to just confuse me. I feel like it's going to confuse me. Yeah. Do we have any traveler fans in the chat at the moment that might be able to help tell us what additional tonnage each will require? I believe the maneuver drives is just a single ton between of them, so really we're talking about a half square each. So we would have to modify these pathways so it's just like slightly narrower. I don't think that's a huge thing. The actual maneuver drives, the way we're going to solve that is basically add an additional row of these piping pieces, right? Then the drive cones we could potentially replace with larger ones, but technically it's the machinery that makes a difference, not the thruster size itself. Although some people might feel that the thruster size here is a bit small, but when we have these sort of rings, what we can actually do is take the base ring and leave it where it is, and then basically just take everything. Let's see if maybe I can grab. Oh, okay, they're separate objects. I guess this is an earlier version. But if we grab all of these rings, for example, you can leave the sort of base insides the same, and then just like, let's make sure the snap step is on. relative, let's see. Whoop. The relative was 100%, so let's put that down to 0.1, so that's 10% increases. So this would be a 10% larger thruster, right? For reference. So we could technically do that, leaving the lights all in the same place and just scaling up everything a bit. And it does look a bit beefier, but not to the point where it's like out of place. And you can see here it's just missing out on hitting into other parts of the ship. Let's see. The extra fuel tankage is a bigger issue. Yes, we're going to do fuel bladders, but what I don't know is if we'll divide that up into separate stretch goals, because it would be an awful lot of work to do new maneuver drives, new jump drives, new power plants, and fuel bladders all in one stretch goal. Unless we made that stretch goal something stupidly large, but it makes more sense to sort of divide it up into smaller parts, right? Elongate them. Elongate what exactly?
Is he talking about the engines, perhaps? Or not the engines, what do you call it?
Drive cones? Or thruster cones? Or?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the machinery inside.
Oh, right, yeah. We can just make it a bit longer, but the thing is, this machinery in T5, via the illustrations, actually has several more sections, so it would actually bring it closer to what the original art looks like. And I think all we would need to do really is move these control panels so that they're essentially over here instead, right? That would fit, I believe. Wait, why is that hopping so much? Oh, because it's based on where the grid is. Let's just increase the grid a little bit.
Central cone could be longer.
There we go. See, that'll fit in nicely anyway. Although I guess maybe we've got a bit of machine. I don't know. There's a couple of half squares and things we could fool around with, I'm sure. So, yeah, there's a couple of options here. The other thing we could potentially do is widen this slightly so it just comes out a half an inch or something like that, quarter of an inch, and collectively it will look a lot larger. Also, there could be room on the floor below for additional pumps or whatnot, so maybe it's about the amount of fuel you put into it, right? We do have some creative freedom. Fuel bladders first, can always use it to make 2 jump with. That's a good point. Fuel bladders should be the first stretch goal. So let's not dally on this any longer. Let's get planning some fuel bladders. And the question is, do we have anything that we can use as a base? So the clear and obvious place to add the fuel bladders is here. Now, 200 tons. That means to get to jump 2, we need to increase the fuel by 10%. That means that we need 20 tons worth of fuel. And if we count here, we've got 10 squares there, right? And if 2 squares is equal to a ton, that's 5 tons there, 2 levels, 10 tons. So 10 tons either side here in the cargo bay. This is the most logical space to put them. We don't have any details in the wall for pumps or whatnot, but I think people will forgive that at the moment. Or potentially we can make a, the ability to hook it on with a clip or something rather than just sit loosely. So that's one potential. We definitely can do a version of the ship where we expand it by, say, a couple of tiles, and maybe we can count how much more fuel that gives us. All right.
There's an equation there.
Oh boy, Richard Perks is a traveler nerd. All right, yeah. J2 is an extra 1% equals 2 D tons. Power plant increase depends on tech level. Yeah, of course. This is the other thing. Like the tech level can affect things, but I think we just got to assume that we at fairly low tech levels. that is an idea too, to have like an alternative look and feel for power plants. Maybe we can have a less convoluted design that we could swap out for that looks like a little more high-tech. Sleek, yeah, but that's the kind of thing that, you know, you want to spend a little bit of time designing. But yeah, so the fuel bladders, and them at least have to be 20 tons, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure about that. Can they be placed on the wall of the floor, off the floor? Technically they could, but you'd only be saving a little bit of space. If I put on the deck A sides here, you can see there's another 1/2 inch to the top. So potentially you could have a different format there, where it's like 3 times 3, and basically, oh, that was the other thing that we were talking about, an adobe up here. Is that right? Something mezzanine or something? There was one of those fancy terms to basically make this a deck that's separate from the base. And you know, you could potentially have a cargo lift in there too. There's lots of things that we could do that are relatively low workload, basically. There was someone asked if we could do the version of the ship without, you know, the without the passenger section. That would be an absolute mammoth task. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just one of those things that would take several weeks to implement. And you know, any time that we have to spend doing stretch goals is time that we can't spend doing a new ship. Although I'm pretty sure, no matter how well this campaign goes with the traveler ship, I really want to do my own design, a smaller ship next time, just so I can get my I want to test out if my theories are true, that I can design a much quicker, more sensible ship. I say more sensible in the sense of in a 3D space, right? So the Type S and the Beowulf are both ships with a lot of curves or triangular sort of angles and that sort of thing. Not great for a tile-based interior, right? I would design a ship based around the interior first. I mean, that looked fine in a 2D deck plan, but not so great when you're trying to translate into 3D. So we will be doing deck plans. This is a part of the idea of this is, as I mentioned, I had these images up in the very early renders. We've got a couple of issues to iron out with these black spaces and whatnot. So, you know, it's going to take time to get there. We are getting help getting those into documents, so we could do, you know, PDF printing. What?
Next project, board cube.
Well, I think the size of it might make it a little bit more difficult, considering the fact that this is only 40 meters long, and a board cube is 3 kilometers on the side.
Board cube scout ship. Mark.
I don't think Star Trek is something we will ever license. At least a lot sad about that. But her favorite ship, the Voyager itself, is what, like 300 meters long or something like that.
That's insane.
I don't know. I'm sure there'll be a Star Trek geek that chimes in very soon and says, "Well, actually." But in any case, like even though it's like all warp nacelles and stuff, it does not. I don't know how it would hold together. Obviously, and then you've got to license things. So like if I would license something like that, Star Wars makes a hell of a lot more sense, because it has a hell of a lot more ships that are in that, you know, viable range. Like the Millennium Falcon, what is it, 35 meters long or something like that. There's a lot of smaller ships that make a lot more sense. Not to mention the fact that there are actual tabletop games, miniature games, that use Star Wars. So that would make more sense. But I'm pretty sure I'd probably have to put down like $100,000 or something to get that kind of license. So I don't know if that's going to happen. In any case, yeah, we want the fuel bladders. I'm not seeing anyone correcting me about my maths. You could potentially put them in, sort of different areas, as mentioned. But I think for now we're going to go for the 2x5 by 2 decks sort of solution. So we need to start with an early block out. Let's get our grid on.
345 meters long.
There you go. There you go. Great. The Lore Mistress, of course, appropriate name. That lore apparently is Star Trek lore, at least partially. Or they've got great Google foo.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So, what did we say? 2x5. Whoop. My Maya skills right now are a bit drunk, apparently. So I'm just going to grab this, and then we're going to extrude this by, let's see, I don't have my HUD on at the moment. Let's turn the HUD on. And we want to translate the Z, that's up in this case. Wait, no. Oh, it's up in this, extrusion orientation in any case, the blue one. In the scene, it's actually Y that is up. But let's go 50.8, Y 50.8. That is 2 inches.
Oh, yeah. That's all you need, if you can.
Oh, God. And now we just lost the ability to share this video with children. And I just realized that's incorrect, because we want to go up 4 inches, right? So apparently 2 inches is not enough, Alvin. So that would be 101.6, right?
That's, yeah.
That's 10 centimeters. Alban has different standards. Anyway.
We got some comments.
Oh, good. Save us from ourselves.
345 meters long. No, never mind. Standard cargo containers or maybe ATV as stretch goals. I was curious, what is an ATV? Is that like a land?
All-terrain vehicle.
Ah. Okay.
So we do have, as an add-on in the campaign, we do have an alternative air raft that's being worked on. There are a lot of older school traveler vehicles that I like the look of from that Mega Traveler sort of period. So those are sort of like reasonable things that, okay, they will take a couple of weeks to do. But it's also stuff that, a good sort of project for Alban to sink his teeth into, that sort of thing. So yeah, basically, this will be slightly higher than this because the floor is obviously not at the right height. So it'll probably be suspended. Not suspended, but it'll sit a little bit above the floor, okay? So we could potentially also do an alternative version of the floor tiles where this is built in if you don't want to muck around. But yeah, the fuel bladders, this is the block out space. It might sit just a tad out as well, as we can see from there, but the important thing is we've got the rough shape. Now, the question is what these fuel bladders actually look like. So from what I understand, it's got to be something that can fold up into a much smaller space. I'm not entirely sure exactly how small that is, but a fractional size of what it is. I would say like at least a quarter, right? So that means we need some kind of mechanism with a frame built around it. And again, fortunately that 10 tons kind of includes everything you need. So that the D tons, it's like volume based, right? So the frame can still fit into this section. And as far as cargo modules go, we already have an add-on that you can buy that we did for the Type S, despite the fact that the cargo didn't fit it, and they use standard traveler sizes.
Oh, apparently Zorma has joined.
Hey Zorma. So yeah, to mention now that Zorma is there, he just recently completed the Type J lighting kit. You can go to seconddynasty.com and go to the lighting section and follow the links there. I believe that's supposed to be out today, and Lisa, look, we did update those zip files, right? Yep, so the zip files for the Type J have been updated now. They have the lighting kit files in addition. And that's getting released today, right? Let's see. So, yeah, if you've got the Type J or want to modify your Type S to a Type J, you can get the STL files on My Mini Factory. And now there's a light kit for the engines. And also, that's not just, you know, the light kit for the type. Let me see. I think I recently did a graphic for the campaign. Where are we? Beowulf, add-ons, Type J here, because we do have some older Traveler material that I was putting up. Oh, I don't have a PNG for it, guys. Sorry, I don't want to take any risks. Last time OBS crashed when we had Maya and Adobe products open at the same time. But basically, the Type J that we did has more like the classic Traveler back, so it's a little bit more angled than the T5 Scout. So if you want that alternative rear section, that'll fit on your regular Type S and look very nice. So yeah, the light kit's a little bit better too, because the battery is better contained in the back section of the ship.
I'm not sure if did you see that comment? Apparently, that the collapsible fuel tanks are like collapsible water jugs.
What does that look like?
No clue, dude.
Let's see. Collapsible water jug. Really, would that work at that scale? So I'm just gonna move this over. You can see all the other nonsense here I've got. So I'm guessing it's more like something like this, but large scale. I don't know. I'm gonna wait for or this sort of thing. So really, it's just an accordion sort of plastic tank, I guess, which is you know quite easy to make actually. We just need some high-tech sort of bits and bobs that we put in. Let us know if that's the kind of thing we're going for. But yeah, we can start dividing this up to make it an accordion-like thing. Let's see, I'm going to start like so. And actually, I might even do another section of these. So actually, before we get too far here, you'll notice some lag, and that would be due to the fact that yeah, Maya was trying to compare all of the polygons that are beneath it. So I'm just adding in a bunch of layers here, and then I'm going to increase the size of my grid like so, and we're going to put that in as let's try 8 to begin with. So basically, I'm going to use my grids to make a very grid-based, I guess, weird way of saying things. We don't actually need this view for very much. We're going to look at our top and side. Maya has a bug sometimes where the orthographic cameras don't reset properly when you load a scene. So we can see here, what we want to be doing is taking every other one of these, let's see, I can just go and deselect some of these. So every other one of these, now this is going to probably be too low quality of a grid, we might need even more changes, but we snap to grid here, and actually if we now go and grab the other side, and get a little fancy. See, because technically when this is expanded, this is going to look fairly squarish anyway. I'm just going to move this onto the grid. You can already see, oh god, what is it now?
Stretch goal, switch to using Blender.
Is John here? Who said that?
Who's been a pain, boy?
I just realized that this isn't quite... I want it to go the opposite way. Which is a bit of an annoyance. Well, actually, no, this is fine. This is fine. So let's get the accordion going on this section as well. This is much harder to see, so I'm just going to turn off the grid. The grid's still there. I can still snap to it. It's just, for some reason... Wait, is that... I've done something wrong. What is it? There, I picked one too many there. Alright, so there, 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 there. Alban.
Oh.
Wait, is Ola here?
Maybe he is. He's in our heart.
He's always in our heart.
Yes. Frame and plates. The bladder would have to be quite strong to maintain the H2 as a liquid.
Yes. Also, again, this is the expanded version, and these are still, like, we just want the slightest hint that, you know, these have been expanded to contain the fuel.
We got the comment concerning the volume. Is it a 20D ton or a 40D ton?
It's two different bladders, one each side. So there'll be one here and there'll be one there.
Ah.
This makes the most... So it's not one fuel bladder with 20 D tons. It's going to be two fuel bladders with 10 D tons each.
Ah.
That makes sense distribution-wise on the ship. It makes sense logically with the layout as well. But technically, you could just stack two next to each other, I suppose, and potentially expand them. So
the comment was that 20D ton for the expanded would roughly be 8.5 meters side, so that would be less than roughly 4 meters then per side instead.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the 20 D ton is not for the fuel it contains; it's for the volume. Oh. So I don't think it's an issue making it fit within those squares. Everything else on the grid works in the same way, where, like, you know, the partitions and things are supposed to be a variance of about 10%. So
we got another good comment here that from Totally Glitch. It's a sci-fi diaphragm, so less concerns for structural integrity.
Yeah, well, I mean, I still pride myself on my work, so I do like to...
Okay. Beowulf passenger. It's like the walls are closing in on me. Captain, they are. We are refueling.
Alright, is this what I want? I don't know if this is what I want. I'm gonna have a look. This looks like it makes slightly more sense. And we're probably actually gonna make this a bit thinner too, so that there might be a solid wall, I guess, on the end of things, or I don't know yet. I just don't know. We'll make that 2, make it go here. And so this will have to stick out a little bit. I don't know. What makes sense to you guys more? Is it better to have it aesthetically pleasing with it being completely flush with the hole? So rather than, you know, sitting here, I guess sitting like there and jutting out a tiny bit there, is it better to make it expand like a tiny bit in this direction but fit exactly? Because I mean, it's still going to be floating slightly above, right? It's higher up because the floor panels are included in those D-tons for the actual hull, but you know, we do have a higher ceiling for the cargo bay. Not completely flush aesthetics. Well, let's get a vote going on that. Let's see. I'll create a poll. Let's see. Add option. Why is it just saying, oh, I got to write the options. I'm silly. I know whatever I ask this community, there's always going to be people that disagree. And that's, going to be a compromise. I know that the more Traveller fans get involved in this, and I hope there's more, because we're doing the deck plans, and whilst there are other deck plans out there, it's not for our Beowulf. And one thing you can be guaranteed is that our deck plans work in 3 dimensions. That's all I'm going to say about that. Our Beowulf is about 4.5 meters longer than the T5 one. There's 2 inches at the front. There's 1 inch at the back, basically. So it's really just a thicker hull to fit those, mega Traveller, classic Traveller aesthetics. So let's see how we're doing. So far, aesthetics are winning out. Wait, did I just put up a poll that's essentially the same thing? Flush with hull is aesthetically pleasing. Let's assume that flush with hull means that it's not flush with the hull. Oh god. Welcome to Friday, my friends. I hope my wife is going to sit down below because I've deserved some beers this week, I feel. So we'll see. So far we've got 58% aesthetic. Can I modify the poll at all? I can only end it. Should I redo it? I don't know. It's wasting time. But yeah, obviously the fuel bladders are going to make more sense. I wouldn't have thought they would have been... I thought there would have had to be a frame around it. But I guess we're dealing with science fiction materials, right?
There were a few suggestions about making frames, or perhaps hydraulics in the corners or something like that, for resistance.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like blocking out where it is. We're not going to get very far today. If I did things the way I would probably do them is make it so that... oh yeah, Dalton, while you're there, how much space should this be taking when it's folded? Since I know at least you are a mega Traveller geek.
Make a frame or plate to cap it off.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do, a plate at the end, but I'm waiting on the poll results.
Oh.
Aesthetic.
We got a comment about cryogenic tags though, as an inspiration. They have like some sort of hull structure as well.
I mean, we have our old cargo modules, don't we?
Yeah.
Let's see, was that in the add-ons with the graphic already? Yes. Here's our cargo containers that already exist. What of these things can we steal? Or at least ideas for them, right? Because again, like, these containers fit a certain volume, but the size of the containers themselves are assumed to be included in the displacement they take up. And for example, depending on what you actually pack in there, obviously, like, if you're going to put in iron, that's like, just blocks of iron or something like that, and fill it up, it's going to be a lot heavier than if you fill up a container with, say, water or feathers. What a brazen idea. Let's see. Stretch goal, the other option. Let's see. Makes sense to be flush, then you could just push it against the wall when empty. Yeah, I think aesthetic is winning, and so really the flush is what's winning. Flush with the hull, really I should have had that as not flush with the hull. Like sticking out.
Well, they called it a Freudian pole.
A Freudian pole, yeah. I'm going to end this abomination right now and say that what we're going to do is make it stick out a bit further. So what I'm going to do is essentially let's extrude this a little bit more. See that it goes to like, I don't know, at least 4 wide, and then we'll do one on the other side as well, and this is going to be our like plates, I guess. So then what we're going to do, I feel like that clip when they're like, is what we're going to do. Like every British gangster film ever.
What was that one called with the one who plays Venom? The Boss or something?
I don't know. You're kind of being a bit vague when it's like the bloke that plays Venom is your description.
Me and the names.
Yeah, I know. Is it the guy that plays Bane?
Tom Hardy. He plays a gangster in some sort of movie.
Well, that's also super descriptive. Let's get this down to about there, I think. Wait. There.
Legend, it's called.
Legend? That's a completely different film with Tom Cruise.
No, not the one.
Or Ledger.
It says Legend. I don't think it's Tom Cruise.
That's the wrong Legend.
Yeah. This is from 2015. Jesus, that's a lot of slippery words.
Not really.
From my mouth.
For a Friday without beer. Oh, if only after work was in the cards today, but sadly, it's intake day at the stable, so my wife wants me home early.
What is over here? Horrible bosses? Question mark. Hardy? Question mark. So yeah, Hardy it is. Tom Hardy plays Bane, and the Craze twins. I Am Legend with Will Smith. Let's see. Can I do this perhaps?
So technically, you know, we're going to change the structure of this frame as well, so that there'll be something that, you know, makes more sense. Technically, when it's expanded too, we really shouldn't be seeing this ribbing all that much. I will make it nicer. Fortunately, this will be a nice, easy piece to print though. And, you know, we've gone over slightly here, but, you know, we're making up for the volume, essentially. Let's see. So yeah, again, I don't know if we've got banded container at the back. This one. Empty tank of capacity equals 0.1 d-tons per 10-ton tank. So it is reduced to 1/10 of the size? Wait. 1 d-ton per 0.1 of a d-ton per tank. That seems insanely small. That would be like 1/8 of an inch thick. Does that seem right?
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
It's going to be tiny, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's like an accordion, that would kind of make sense, though, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, an accordion, even if you like you had yeah, I don't know. It's still going to be, I guess, futuristic materials. But I believe like the expanded tanks are like TL7 or 6 or something. So like stuff that you could build today.
Times 6. Oh no, not okay. Never mind.
1/100th of the size. Yeah. Oh god. That's that is tiny, indeed. I'm just going to refresh this and see if we've made the 700. Have we made 700? Yes, we have. 701. Hey! Oh, it's so hard with advertising for these sorts of campaigns, and it seems like we may have found something that mostly works. So yeah, we have a bit more modification to make here, but it's looking pretty good. Well, I don't know if it's pretty good, but these sections then should be much thinner if it's going to fold up to a hundredth of the size. It just hundredth seems ridiculous.
So the people were commenting on the picture. They said the cylinder in the front container image would be a good alternative to add to that fuel bladder stretch goal, and the frames with the X pattern would make sense.
I can't, like, if it's 1/100th the size, technically it really literally is just this big expanded bladder. And then it would just be like a balloon with slightly rounded edges. I mean, stretch goal wise, it's perfect, because I could probably knock that out in about half an hour. So something to consider.
Something else to consider was, I think that this comment was from earlier, but the roof.
Hi, John. Yeah.
Ooh, what up?
The roof. The roof.
The roof is
on fire.
Oh
no! No. Under fire. Pew! Yes, please stay on the channel, like and subscribe. Yeah, so I don't know.
Connecting to the ceiling or something, I guess.
Connecting to the ceiling.
So it's not interpenetrating. Or the bladder. Is the roof? Is there room enough for it to not be in contact with the roof?
Oh yes, absolutely. The roof goes up even further.
Yeah.
So if we put the sides on here, there's a big gap up the top there. That's not an issue. So technically, by the rules, I don't know, Richard Perks, are you going off like the T5 rules, or which rule set are you using? Is it the same in across all versions? A rack with spare missiles and sandcasters to be stored in the cargo bay. Not a bad idea. A bigger garage would be a nice stretch goal as well. The garage is a pain in the butt to make longer. It wouldn't be impossible, but it's one of those ones where it's like, yeah, this isn't a quick job. So we want to start with easier to produce stretch goals, like the fuel bladders are obvious, and then from there we go with, you know, the upgraded jump drives, the upgraded maneuver drives, the upgraded power plant. So yeah. And oh yeah, John's going to have a poll to pick the first stretch goal, so it might not make sense if people don't choose the fuel bladders. So do you want to put the cart before the horse? So it's like fuel bladder, power plant, jump drive. And I mean, all of them have got to be done, but that means that if we're going by Classic Traveler, ADV 5 TCS, I don't know what that means, mate. Traveler Classic something, or is it the fuel bladder same for Mega Traveler? Yeah, I bet it's the same in T5, to be honest, because they don't tend to change the text all that much for descriptions. So really the only honest fuel bladder, if it's like not expanded, it's probably just going to be like basically a balloon. So probably what we're looking for is some kind of rubbery looking, like a literal bladder made of some kind of high tensile materials. So this accordion idea probably isn't in keeping with the rules. So what I would go for then is something that looks like it's an expanded bladder that just fills up this entire space, right? Which we're definitely not going to get done in the next 3 minutes. So yeah, this is fuel for thought. Another Freudian slip maybe. Considering that the bladders are for additional fuel. But yeah, we've got a list now of 1, 2, 3, 4 stretch goals to start with. A couple of larger ones include extending the hull here, which, it's a bit larger than... Actually, no, it would probably take about the same time as it would to figure out how we get these jump drives to be bigger and all of that, because this will require some rethinking a little bit. Of course, we can put some of the jump drive space in the deck below, because the underdeck, I don't know, the deck for the lower drive compartment, the power plant actually fits in quite nicely to just one side. Technically, you could add another 10 tons of power plant, or 4 tons of power plant to the opposite side, but that would put us at like what, P3? Do you need that much power ever? So there probably just needs to be an auxiliary unit over the other side here, and that's sort of what would be talking about with the sort of like a fusion power plant. I don't even know exactly how that's going to look, but yeah, we would just have a little expansion on the other side, I think. And that would bolster this one with like hidden wiring that's totally in the ceiling that you can't ever see. But yeah, there is a little bit of extra room that you could potentially expand down, like over here, underneath the floor for larger jump drives. Why does that feel like that side is larger than... Oh well. In any case, I am definitely rambling at this stage. So I think the bladdery type is probably more in keeping with the description. I think that's the best way to go with it. Don't think there's a picture of a collapsible bladder. You mean to say there's not a picture of everything in Traveller? How weird. This is an issue with Traveller in general, as I found out. Luckily, there is a lot of work on the Type A Beowulf. There's lots of different exterior versions. There's very little pictures illustrating the interior of the ships that match up with the deck plans. Hopefully that changes now, because we've visualized them. And in fact, I know that, I don't know if I can talk about it, but there was a project which at least will use some elements of what we've done. So I'm excited. We've only got slightly over a week to go. We've got, what, 10 days to go before launch? 10 or 11, something like that. Monday the 24th is the date to look out for. I will be probably working quite a bit this weekend. But I hope to see you guys again next week, where we'll be really getting close, and I should be able to show off what I've come up with. Maybe for the first couple of stretch goals. We'll get that list to John, so if you are a member of the tribes, get in there and vote. Again, the campaign page is here. If you're looking for the light kits, just go to seconddynasty.com, and we have a link to Zorima's site. I think it's actually like Zorima's Lights or something.com, but I'm not 100% sure. We definitely have a proper link on the website. And yeah, thanks guys for joining, and we will see you again next week with even more Beowulf. Bye guys.